I'll share my screen. Okay. All right. So uh, let's see one scenario. Okay. Like suppose we have a data, we have a data, and then we divide the data, into two parts: training, you know, and testing. Okay. So okay. So what happens that what happens that how I check the accuracy of my model, how I say that my model is good, you know like there were two cases, you know there were two cases, you know either training, training accuracy is high, you know and testing accuracy is low. Okay. So what is this condition called? When training accuracy is high and testing accuracy is low, so what is this condition called? Overfitting or underfitting? Please tell, what do we call this? No, so we call this overfitting. Okay. And if the situation happens reverse of it, if training accuracy is low and testing is also low, so this condition is known as underfitting. So what I want that my model should generalize well, you know that means the model should be able to do good predictions, you know good predictions for unseen data, because that is more important. Like in real life, what will I do? I will make a model, I will have some data. Using that data, I will make a model, then what will I do? uh, you know uh, like new data will come, new data will come, I will send to this model, and it will start doing the predictions. you know new new any like sample will come, and model has to give the target value of that. So my model should give correct like output for that, for the unseen data, for the unseen data. Okay. Now what happens that there is a method, which is known as cross validation. Okay. Here what happens that first we'll see what is this. Okay. Cross validation, it is a procedure, it is a procedure, okay, or statistical method used to estimate the skill of model. Okay, skill or accuracy we can say, of model on the new data. Okay. So what we do in cross validation, suppose this is my data, I divide my data, into two parts. Okay, one I call it as validation data, okay, and other is training data. Earlier what was I doing? Like same thing I'm doing. Like earlier I was dividing my data, into training, and testing. you know Now what am I doing? Okay, I'm like training. Okay, I have my data. Now what am I doing? I'm like I'm dividing my data, okay, into training, no? Training data and validation data. Okay, so for like testing data, I'm using the term validation data. Okay, so like don't no need to be confused over here, so what will happen that I will train my model in this part, and check its accuracy, on this part. Okay, so this thing I will do. Okay, and what will happen that the test data, you know, test data, I will keep it as separate. No, test data I will keep it as separate. On the training data only, I will divide it into two parts. One is this training. Okay, this training data is divided into two parts: validation data and this training data. So any kind of split we can use, like 20% and 80%. Okay, so this thing we do. So like there are various methods, various types of cross validation. So we'll see them. Okay, so first one is k-fold cross validation. Okay, so in k-fold cross validation, what happens, like I have my data, training data, then I will divide my data into k parts. Okay, so now suppose I have 1,000, 1,000 data points. Then what will I do? I will divide them into these parts, 200, 200, 200, 200. Okay, then what will I do? First I will mark this no, first 200, as my validation data. Okay, and this the rest remaining part, okay, I will call it as a like training data. I will train my model on this part. I'll train on this part and test on this part. Okay, so then what will I do? I will find the accuracy of my model. I will get some accuracy. Now what will I do? In second iteration, 1 2 3 4, like there are 5, no, so there will be 5. 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so 200, 200, 200, 200, and 200, no? Then what will I do? I will take the second part, no, from this 200 to 400, no, this data I will take for my validation, and the rest of the data, I will use for training my model. Okay, so then again I will find the accuracy of my model. Okay, so in the same way, in third iteration, what will I do? I will take this data, as my validation data, and rest of the data I'll take it as training data. In next iteration, I'll take this as validation, other rest as training data. Here I'll take this as validation and rest as training data. Okay, so what will happen that I will get 5 accuracy. I will get 5 accuracy, and then at the end I will average those accuracy. So what will happen that this accuracy, okay, will tell me, that whether, whether my data is able to generalize well. Okay, so this is one of the way we can check the accuracy of our model. So this is one of the techniques that is used. Now, like this is one of the way of doing cross validation. Okay, so one is k-fold cross validation, and we have one more. Okay, which is known as stratified cross validation. Okay, stratified cross validation. So in this, what happens that, I'll just simplify it. I divide my data. Suppose I have threefold, threefold, stratified cross validation. Okay, so suppose I have like this. So what will happen? The first part of my data, I will use for validation, and the rest one I will use for training. Okay, but what will happen, like how this data will be divided? Okay, that is very important. We need to understand the term stratified. Okay, so in stratified, what happens that each fold has correct proportion of the strata. Okay, so this like these parts, these parts I'm calling it as strata. What am I doing? Sorry, like that is known as a fold. Like this strata is different. What is the meaning of strata? That suppose like we have the target variable yes and no. So in this training data, suppose there are like total there are 1,000 1,000 data points. Okay, 1,000 data points. Now out of this 1,000, I have 600 yes and 400 no. So what will happen that I am dividing my data, in such a way that these 1,000 points divide into three parts. Okay, so what will happen that how much data will come in the validation part, so it will be 1,000 divided by 3, so like 333, it will be like near to it, and rest of the data will come over here. So you can consider it as 680, you know 680, and this will be 320. Okay, now how will the data be divided? So in the training data, suppose in the training data, the yes and no, if we see the yes and no, if yes and no are like 300 yes, okay, and 400 no. Okay, suppose, okay, it is like this. In training data we have 300 yes and 400 no. Okay, so in validation data also, what will happen that this ratio of yes and no will remain same. Okay, so here what will happen that we will have 30 yes and 40 no. Okay, so what is the meaning of it is that the proportion of the classes, proportion of the classes in the training and validation data will remain same. Okay, like okay, this is what happens. Like if 300 yeses are there, so in validation also, okay, the ratio should remain same between the yes and no data. Okay, so like that's what happened in stratified cross validation. So this stratified cross validation is more likely to be used, you know because like what can happen that if we don't follow this stratified cross validation, then I will have my data, so what can happen that here only yes, only yes is a, all the no's are lying over here. Now what will happen, my model will train, my model will train to say everything as no, so what will happen that here for this data the accuracy of my model will go down very much, so I don't want this. So instead of that, what will we do, we will divide, okay, we will divide the data in such a way that the proportion of the classes, proportion of the classes in the training and validation data remains the same. Okay. Okay, so these are the two techniques, the cross validation. Okay, so like, can you tell me why we are using cross validation? Like, if we have understood, if you have understood this, why we are using this cross validation? What is the advantage of this? Come on, like, okay, we have already discussed, it is a method to estimate the skill, of the model, on the new data. So what will happen, instead of training on my whole data, I'm not training on my whole data, I'm dividing my training data into two parts now, training and validation data, and I will mark some data, on which I will test that how is my model performing. Again, I'll take second fold, second fold, third fold, so in this way we do. And like, this is a much better way of finding the like the ability of my model to generalize, because I've already told you earlier that I want my model to generalize well, so like, this is one of the technique. Okay, so let's see some other techniques, some other thing. So another thing is regularization. Okay, regularization. Okay, so I'll tell you what is the definition. It's a technique, it's a technique to cope up with overfitting, no, which comes up in training a model on sample data. So what does regularization do? It is a technique so that my model does not overfit. So let me show you, like, what happens that suppose okay, the data points are like this, data points are like this. Now what will happen that if my model is trained like this, if my model is trained like this, then what will I say? Is it a good, like, how much is the error? Is the error high or the error low? Like, I'll build another, you know. So between this yellow and black one, which one is having high error? This yellow and black one. Which one do you think is having high error? Black one or yellow one? Okay. So as you can see that this black one, black one is having higher error. This yellow, okay, the points are lying on the yellow line only, but what is happening that this yellow line, maybe I'll draw a graph little bit different. Okay, let me give you a better explanation. Suppose the data is like this, and data is like this, so what will happen that if I overfit my model, then what will happen that my my model, will pass through all the points, so this thing is known as overfitting. This thing is known as overfitting. So in order to avoid overfitting, you know, what will happen that I don't want my model to overfit, because what will happen that the training data, the new data that my model will see, you know, will have higher error, you know? Like suppose these new points are coming, so they will have higher error. So the better technique, like I want that my model should be able to generalize well. So if you see this curve, you know, this curve, so if any data point comes, new data point comes, okay, so the accuracy of my model will be like okay, like, you know, better than this like better than this curve, you know, which is like overfitting, you know. So what happens that in order to avoid overfitting, okay, we use regularization, you know. Now can you tell me the cost function for linear regression? What was the cost function that I was using in linear regression? Like, does any one of you remember the cost function that we were using? You know, so it was like this, you know, y actual minus y predict whole square. You know, this was my cost function. Now, if the cost goes to zero, if cost goes to zero, that means you know, that means I have reached the minima, because the cost has gone down to zero, and this is what my final goal is. But I told you, if if the error goes down to zero, then what will happen? That then my model will not be able to generalize well, you know. So if any new data comes, okay, then what will happen? The error will become very high. So in order to make my model generalize well, what we do, you know, so this thing we also call it as MSE, we call, no, mean square error. We can call this as mean square error, you know. Now what I do, I changed my cost function, cost function I change my cost function. Now what will I do? Like this term to will remain, you know, this mean square error term will remain. Okay, then what will I do? I will add some term. Okay, so these term are summation of uh, theta, summation of theta I, you know, so I equal to 1 to n. Okay, and we have one more parameter, like these theta, you know, these theta are the slopes, you know, the slopes that we have. Like how, like what is the like equation of a model, like what is y predict, what is y predict? So y predict will be see, theta 1 x1 plus theta 2 x2 plus plus my bias, plus my bias. So these theta I'm talking about, so I will add one more term. Okay, this term I will add, and this lambda, this lambda is known as regularization parameter, you know. So if lambda value goes high, lambda value goes high, then what will happen? That this term will become very big, in comparison to this term. Suppose lambda is like near to infinity, lambda is near to infinity, then this term will be very high. That means my model will have high error, high error. That means it will have high bias. And what is the meaning of high bias? That my model will have more error, okay, more error in the training data, you know. But what if my lambda equal to 0? Lambda equal to 0, what will happen? Then only this term I need to minimize. Okay, so here if cost goes down to 0, okay, then there are like lot of chances that my model will tend to overfit, you know. So what I do, I introduce some error, you know, introduce some error, or we call it as penalty, you know, so that my model can generalize well, you know. So this penalty, you know, this term we can also say it as penalty, you know, penalty that we are making. Okay, so like this will be my cost function now. Okay, and this is also known as L1 norm, you know, L1 norm. Now like what is happening over here, that we'll try to choose lambda, you know, lambda in such a way, okay, so that this whole term, that is MSE plus lambda times theta I, you know, becomes minimum. That is my, like, this cost function becomes minimum, you know, this I want it as minimum. Okay, now if it becomes minimum, like, then it will not be like over. I need to minimize this term also, you know, both the terms I need to minimize. So like that is the thing that is happening over here. So it will not happen that both the terms will become zero, you know. Suppose this term goes down to zero, you know, is coming down to zero. Okay, so this term, you know, this term will increase. Okay, so like suppose I will give you example like MSc, and this okay, this I'm calling it as penalty. Okay, MSc and penalty that I have. Okay, now suppose MSc is 20. Okay, and penalty is 5, you know, 20 and penalty is 5. MSc is 0, you know, penalty is 25, you know. MSc is 15, penalty is 5. MSc is 10, penalty is you know, MSc is 10, penalty is 7. Okay, so these are the like, you know, these are the MSc and penalty that I have. So which one do you think I should choose? Which one do you think I should choose? Which one will give me like, which model should I choose? Suppose there are different models with me, you know, in which we have MSc and the penalty that we have, like this term I'm calling it as penalty. So which model we will use from this? First one, second one, third one, or fourth one? Please tell. See, here MSc is 0, you know, mean square error is 0, but penalty is high, you know. So let's sum the terms, you know. Here the sum is 25, here the sum is 25, here the sum is 20, here the sum is 17, you know. So this model I will be choosing, you know, because the sum of both the terms is minimum among all. I'm not choosing mean square error to be 0, you know, because this case will lead to overfitting, you know, this term will lead to overfitting. So I don't want that. So I want the sum of MSc and penalty to be like as minimum as possible. Okay, so now we have also one more term that is known as L2 normal, L2 norm. Okay, L2 norm, you know? So this is also one of the kind of regularization, you know? This is also one of the way of normalization, sorry, this regularization, you know. And what is the formula for this? Okay, the cost function would be the mean square error, okay, plus lambda times, okay, summation of theta I whole square. Okay, so this will be my term for this. The only difference between this L1 and L2 norm is that here we will be we will do the summation of theta I, you know, but here we will do the summation of theta I whole square, you know. So like this is the thing that we use over here, and this lambda will be known as my regularization parameter. So lambda value will range from 0 to infinity. Okay, 0 to infinity. So like we will use L1 and L2 norm in like different kind of cases, you know. So for some kind of problems we will be using L1 norm, for some problems we will be using L2 norm. Okay, and you know, just remember like these formulas. Okay, what does this L1 and L2 norm does? And this L2 norm, okay, L2 norm is also known as uh, ridge regression. This is also known as ridge regression, and this L1 norm is also known as lasso regression. Okay, like no need to focus on these terms, you know, lasso and ridge regression, no need to worry about them, but like this is also one of the name that they have given. Okay, let me try to show you these things graphically. Okay, so what will happen that imagine, okay, imagine a surface. Okay, imagine a surface. Okay, imagine a surface, a 3D surface, you know. Imagine a 3D surface. Like I'm not able to draw a 3D surface, you know, but imagine a 3D surface, you know. Now what I want to do, I want to come down to the minimum of this, you know. Now what will happen that uh, like I'm not able to show this uh, properly, like how it is happening, but like suppose we have a curve like this, you know, we have a curve, and if I take a projection of that curve, you know, if I take the projection of that curve, then see, like suppose this is a curve, you know, suppose this is a curve. Now what will happen that there will be some points, you know, on which the error remains constant. Like I'll show you in, you know, this. The, here the error will be same here and here, you know, because they are lying on the same by value, you know. So here the error is same, you know, here the error is same, these 2 points error will be same, these 2 points error will be same. Okay, okay. Now if this cost function, you know, if this cost function, you know, becomes 3D, now becomes 3D, three dimensional, this is two dimensional, if it becomes three dimensional, you know, so then what will happen that I will get these kind of circles, you know. In these circles the error will be same, you know. If I am here also, then also error is same, here also, here also, here also, here also, you know. So what will happen, like these kind of concentric circles will be made, this will be my local minima, you know? This will be my local minima. Like you can consider this as a like valley, you know. This is the highest point and this is the lowest point, you know. This is a high point and I am going towards the low point and lowest point. So here what will happen, like these circles will have same error, these circle, you know, and this circle, you know, here the error will be same, here the error will be same. Okay, so let me try to like draw this. Now suppose, you know, this will be my theta 1, this is my theta 2, you know, and you know, this, okay, I'm like the error, you know, error is represented using the third dimension, you know, error is being represented using the third dimension. So you don't need to worry, but what is happening, like error in this part, you know, error in this part is constant, error in this part is constant, you know, and here is it is the minimum, you know, here it is the minimum. Now what will happen that I have another term. Suppose I'm using this L2 norm, lambda of summation theta I. Sorry, L2 norm. If I'm using this L2 norm, then what will happen for this MSE? So the minimum will be like this, minimum will be here. But for this second term, the minimum will be 0, because the minimum value of this theta would be 0 only. Okay, so this term would be 0. Now what will happen that this term will have the maximum value like this, the maximum value of this will be like this. Okay, and what we want a point such that like it will just join it at one point, so this is the minimum error that I can get. This is the minimum error that my MSE is giving, mean squared error is giving, and this is the minimum error that the penalty value is giving. So what I need to do, I need to increase my like mean square error till this point. Here penalty is 0, and I need to increase my penalty such that okay the MSE is also 0, and penalty is also not very high. Okay, so this will be my actual uh, like global actual minima that I want. This is the minimum value that I want for my cost function, so this thing will work. Okay, this thing will work for L2 norm. Okay, and why I have drawn this circle, because if you see this theta, theta, so if there are like two axes are there, theta 1 and theta 2, so if I add all the squares, then what will happen? If I add all these squares, this becomes the equation of a circle. If you have seen the equation of a circle, this becomes the equation of a circle with the radius r. The radius is r, and this radius, for this radius, r will be equal to square root of theta 1 square plus theta 2 square. Okay, like no need to go into the detail, why it is happening like this, but I just wanted to show you okay, a little bit graphically also. So that is why this thing is also known as ridge regression. Ridge regression, you know because this penalty is forming a circle over here. Okay, and if we see the L1 norm, L1 norm, let's write the equation for L1 norm. So the cost function will be mean squared error plus lambda times summation of theta I. This will be my L1 norm. Now like what will be this? This will be theta 1 plus theta 2. This term will be theta 1 plus theta 2. So it will actually like form like this. Okay. So this will be for my penalty. This term will be for my penalty, and like these terms will be for my this mean squared error. Okay. So what will happen that they will meet at a point. Okay, they will meet at a point. Okay, so this value I will take, because here penalty is also fine, and this is also fine. Like suppose if I take this value, suppose if I take this value, now what will happen that this penalty will increase a lot. Okay, this penalty will increase a lot. Now suppose if I take the minima over here, then what will happen? This mean squared error, will increase very much. Okay, so where they will be minimum, in this region only. This part, in this part, they will be minimum. Okay, so this was like L1 regularization. All right, so that is like these were the concepts that I wanted to tell you. Okay, now like this was the theory part. Now I wanted to tell you some other things, like what happens that we have models, you know, we have mathematical models. Okay, so what are the machine learning models we have studied till now? Please tell the names of them. What are the machine learning models we have studied? Come on, guys, be interactive. No, linear regression. No, what is the other models we have studied? Come on.
Logistic regression and SVM.
SVM, and one more we have studied. You know, so
KNN.
yeah, KNN also we have studied. You know, so what happens that these models, you know, these models have certain parameters, like in logistic regression, you would have seen that I have a parameter that is known as max iter. You know, this max iter I had, so max iterations I was setting it as 1000. You know, and in SVM also I told you that there is a parameter which is known as C. You know, if we increase, like decrease the value of C, then you know, then I introduce the error. Then I introduce the error. If the C is very high, you know, then I will try to reduce the error. So here what will happen in case of SVM, I will have hard margin, you know, and here I will have soft margin. You know. Also in SVM we have different type of kernels also. You know, kernels like RBF, polynomial, linear, you know, these kind of. Now what happens that this SVM will work, give the highest accuracy, you know, on one of these like models only, you know, because what I will do, I will take kernel as RBF, you know, and we'll take some value of C. You know, suppose I'm taking C equal to 1. You know, I'll use these two parameters, then I will train my model, and then I will check the accuracy. Then what will I do? I will use this kernel equal to polynomial and C equal to 1. Then I will get different accuracy. Okay. So in the end, what I want the accuracy of my model to be very high, and accuracy of my model to be very high, or like it should be able to generalize well. So I need to set the parameters such that you know, my accuracy is very high. Okay. And this thing, you know, this thing is known as hyper parameter tuning. है ना? है ना? We change the value of these hyperparameters in such a way such that the accuracy of my model increases. है ना? So let me show you the code. Maybe then it will be more clear. Okay. So like what happened that I created this case study. In this, what happened that there is a data of a insurance company, you know? So like travel insurance company, so it has various features like age of the person insured, gender, you know, the commission received for travel insurance agency, amount of sales of travel insurance policies, destination of travel, duration of travel. Okay, so all these data related to travel insurance is presented over here. So what is my target variable? The claim status. Okay, the claim status, whether I will fulfill that claim or not, you know, whether that claim was fulfilled or it was not fulfilled. So what will happen that you know, I imported my data, and we can see the data. Okay, so these are the pages. Then what I did, like here what I did, I checked, is there any value, you know, that is null, that is having null values. Okay, so for gender it is having null values, rest all of them don't have any null values. So what will I do, I will I will just see how many of the gender values are null. So these much are the null values, and this is the shape of my data. So I have 63,326 rows and 11 features. Now what will I do? I will drop all the rows, where gender value is not specified. Like if I'll show you, here to, yeah, see, here it is not a number, no, nan. So what will it do? It will remove all these rows, no? So using this, I will remove all the rows, drop any, drop all the null values. Okay, now if I will run this is null dot any, then it will show that no features are null now. Okay, so now I'm left with 18,219 values. Earlier I was having more values. Okay, so this is the thing. And also if I plot the histogram of the age, then we can see that one person is having age of like 118 years. Okay, more than 100. So we can say that this person is an outlier, because a person cannot have age of more than 100. Like it's like very rare, so what we do, we will remove that person. Okay, so this is an outlier over here. So I will remove the age, okay, where the age is equal to 118. And like this, I have drawn a histogram for the duration. So like here what has happened, that from for some values, the duration, duration of the like duration of the travel that was there, it was 0. So duration is 0, then that means that I don't need to give any claim to that person, no? Because duration is already 0, so what will I do? I will remove all the rows, okay, where I will select only those rows where duration is not equal to 0, and I will put it in this data frame. Now if I check, is duration having any null values? So we can see that there is no null values. Okay, now like these are some of the things that I have done, so no need to like worry about them. Like if we see like some statistics, like 16,000 have claimed, 16,727 has claimed, like those claims were not given, and 6633 claims were given. So what do you think? Is it a balanced data set or unbalanced data set? Please tell. The classes, see the class, the difference between the classes, one is having 16,727, another is having 633 only, so you can see that this is a unbalanced data set, because one class is having large number of values, another class is having very less values, in the comparison. Also if we see one more thing, that if we check the gender, okay, and check the claim of them, so we can see that for females, like 96%, okay, claims were no, and 0.039 were yes. And for males also same data is being shown. So like this thing is just for my purpose, like it doesn't have much sense, but I wanted to check whether the females are getting more claims, or the males are getting more claims. But you can see in this that it's equal, so no need to worry about that. Now what will I do, that here I have many values, many data, okay, which are having the values as string, so for my model I need to pass only the values, not these strings, because these strings will, my model will not be able to process, so I need to convert them into numbers. So how will I do that? I will use this get dummies function. Okay, so this we have already discussed earlier also, no? So for these columns, gender and distribution channel, I will change them into one hot encoding. Now let's see the data. Okay, so I have gender male, and I have also used drop first equal to 1. Okay, so the number of classes that I will have will be 1 minus. Okay, so this thing also I have explained you earlier. So see, now gender is changed to gender male, and you can see 0 means female and 1 means male, And distribution channel also I have changed. Distribution channel, what were the values for distribution channel? It was offline, offline and online. So offline is 0 and online is 1. Okay, so you can see 0 and 1. Now if we see, now what will we do? We will put all these features into X, and here I have done some like renaming of the these columns. Like we had this gender M, so this gender M, I'm renaming it as gender. Okay, distribution channel online, it's a very long name, so I'm just making it as distribution channel. So this is the data now I have, and I will put the claim, I will put the claim in Y. I will put the claim feature in Y, and you can see that I haven't included all the features like product name. I haven't taken destination also. I haven't taken. Like the thing is that this data will create problem for me, because for this destination, like there were like lot many number of countries were there, so converting these into numbers was a difficult task for me. So that's why for simplicity I removed these columns. Okay, but the exploratory data analysis, that's not my aim in this case study, but I wanted to tell you how we do hyperparameter tuning. Okay, so I have my X, I have my Y. Okay, and I will normalize my data, standardize my data. So I can do that using this standard scaler. I will normalize my data, and then what will I do? I will so it will change the values from 0 to 1, you know, and then I will split that into X train X test and Y train Y test. So here are the dimensions for X train, and these are the X test dimension. Now what will I do? See, there is a parameter that is known as C. C is the inverse of the regularization parameter. So we have seen in the regularization over here. No? So what happens that if lambda is high, lambda is high, then what will happen? That I will have high error in the training data. So if lambda is high, so if lambda is high, then C value will be low, because C and lambda are inverse of each other. So what will happen that if C is low, then I will have high error. Okay, so no need to worry much about it, but just remember it is a inverse of regularization parameter. So if C is low, okay, so then it will have low bias. So you can see if C is low, then the accuracy is 96%. Okay, and here I haven't specified any C, so like it would have taken like default value of C. Okay, so here also the accuracy came out to be same. Now let's see, like I have also told you the cross validation. So like I import a class from this sklearn dot model selection, and I import cross validation score. So cross validation score, I will pass the model which I want to use. Okay, I pass my data and I pass the number of folds that I want in my data. So this is the accuracy for my first, first fold, first fold. This is the accuracy for second fold, third fold, fourth fold, and fifth fold. So you can see that the accuracy is like in the good range, 96%. So we can say that my model is performing good. Now what I did, I formed this classification report, and here you can see that this precision and recall is coming out to be 0, and this is a like very bad like news. Although this precision for this one is high, but for the 0 it is very bad. What I want the accuracy for my positives also to be very good, and for the negatives also to be very good. Okay, but here for the positives it is coming very good, but for the negatives it is coming very bad. So this I don't want. So what I do, that as we have seen that my data is unbalanced, so what will I do? I will increase, okay, I will try to balance my data. I will try to increase the I will try to increase this yes. How will I increase the yes? So what will I do? I use an algorithm which is known as SMOT. Like there is one full form of this, like okay, I'm not remembering it. Maybe later I will tell you, how this mode works. But for now, what just understand that I am oversampling my data. Oversampling my data. So after I use this mode, so after oversampling, what will happen? That this earlier Y train was 12,000. Now it has become 23,000. So the number of data points in my training data have increased now. Now what I'll do, I will check the validation score. So you can see it has decreased. So that means my model is not good. Although by looking at here, I was saying that my model is very good. My model is having 96% accurate. But here what was happening? That my model was unbalanced. And when my model is balanced, then I get to see the actual accuracy of my model. So here you can see that 98%, and for the zero also it is like it's not very good. It should be good for both of them. Precision and recall both should be good. And like what I did, I used this c equal to 0.01, and the cross validation, then I trained it. So these are the accuracies that I have got, and I choose c equal to 10, and the cross validation, and then I ran my model. So these were the accuracies that I got. So you can see that when I choose c equal to 10, the accuracy was less compared to this. So see, this is 6517 and this is 6506, but here it is 64, here it is 63.8, 64.53. Okay, I think we have to take the average of all of them, then only we will get to know like which c value is good. But instead of trying all these hyperparameters, what we can do, we can specify a range. We can specify a range that I want to train my model on these different values of c. Now suppose I want to train my model for c equal to 1, 3, 5, 7 different values of 3 c I want. So then I don't want that I will write this statement again, and then I will run that. So instead of that, what will I do? There is a library which is known as grid search cv. Okay, so like no need to worry about what is the name and all, but it does a very simple task. It does a very simple task. It will train my model. It will train my model for every value of c that I give to it. So the c value, the c value I will for c value I will give all the ranges, all the values for which I want this model to get trained. Okay, I will pass this value. I will pass the cross validation, and this is also one of the parameter that we give. So now what we'll do, we will fit this classifier, and we'll see the cross validation results. So here you can see that this is coming out to be very messy. So what will I do? I will change this into a data frame, pandas data frame. So what will happen, that see, for different values of c, like c is 0.01, we have different values of c. For these different values of c, I have different accuracy, mean accuracy we'll see, because for every value of c, I have done the k-fold cross validation. So k was equal to 5, k was equal to 5. So c 1 2 3 4 5, for every value of c we have 5 accuracies, and this is the mean accuracy that we have. Okay, now out of this data frame I will just extract only this parameter c and the mean test score, because I want the mean test score to be highest. So what I want, what we will do, we will use this best parameters. This variable we will use, it will give me the best parameter for which the mean test score is high. highest, है ना. For c equal to 10, c is 10, the accuracy is 6460, 646095, 646095. For c equal to 100 also it is giving me the same, so but it is showing me only this one only, you know? So it's not a problem, but if I use this parameter, then the accuracy will be highest that I will get. And what is the best score that I am getting? Okay, so this is 6460. Okay, so like this is one of the use of grid search CV. You know, what will it do? I will pass on the hyperparameters, you know, all the hyperparameters on which I want to train my model, you know, and it will train automatically, and in the end it will give me a report, you know. From out of that report I will choose those parameters, you know, for which my model is giving me the highest accuracy, you know. So this C I will use. Okay, now we have another library, okay, another function, that is randomized search CV. It is just the optimized version of this grid search CV, you know. It is optimized version because training my model every time for different values of C, you know, it will take a lot of time because I'll train for this C, then this C, then this C, this C, this C, and this C, you know. So what randomized CV will do, it will randomly choose any C value and train it, you know, randomly choose some other C value, then train it. So it is little bit faster version of grid search CV. So it will also do the same thing, and it will also do the same thing. It will give me the parameters and the test score, you know. So by looking at this, I can choose the value of C that I want to use, you know. Now I guess like that would be too much for you, but like no need to worry. Okay, just listen, like you could revise these things like later also, you know. But like although the code that you are seeing, it might look little bit like complex to you, but in reality it's quite easy if you like have studied Python, you know, like properly, then you would properly understand it. Can you tell me what is this data structure that I'm using over here? What is this data structure? This colon, where do I use this colon? Where do I use this curly bracket? You know? So basically it's a dictionary, you know, key value pair we have na, in dictionary. So here what is happening, we have a dictionary inside a dictionary. So it's little bit weird, but you know, keep like revising those things also. So now what happens that here we have taken different parameters for a single model, you know, for a single model I took different parameters. Now it may also be possible that I can choose, see, I have my data, you know, I have my data, and I have different kind of models, you know, machine learning models. We have like for classification only I'm, you know, talking right now, classification. So if I talk in terms of classification, you know, we have KNN, we have logistic, we have SVM, you know. So what will happen that, and every model will have its own set of parameters. Like for logistic regression we have seen C value, you know, C equal to 1 2, you know, in the same value SVM also has a C parameter. So this one can also have 1 2 3 and all, you know. Now what I want to find the best machine learning model with best parameters, you know, best machine learning model with the best parameters, you know, so that the accuracy is highest. Because here if you see na, that for logistic regression what was the highest accuracy that I was getting? For logistic regression the highest accuracy, what was I getting? See, 646094, this was the highest accuracy that I was getting. Now what I done, I want to train on multiple models. So first I will use the SVM, you know, SVM I will use. Then I will define this model, you know, here, and then I will pass on the function. Okay, and then here I will pass on the parameters for this SVM. So for SVM we have C, you know, we have this regularization parameter, you know, and we also have the kernel, so we can use different kernel. Okay, so these are the parameters that we have defined for this model. And one more model I will choose, that is logistic regression, and the parameters that I have is C. So these are the different value of C that I will use. Now what will I do, that for every for every model, for every model, what will I do, I'll pass the model and parameters to the grid search CV. I'll pass the model. So first, which model will come first? SVM will come, and for the SVM we will have the appropriate parameters. So first SVM will get trained, and for SVM grid search CV will find the best parameters. Then in the second loop what will happen, it will train for the logistic regression, and grid search CV will find the best hyperparameters for them. Okay, so when I have trained that model, then what I got for SVM, I'm getting 69% accuracy. So this is the best score that I have got, and these are the parameters for which the score is highest. So like for C equal to 20 and kernel equal to RBF. See, I have specified other also, linear also I specified, and I specified C equal to 1, C equal to 20. So it is giving me the best hyperparameters for which the accuracy is highest. For C equal to 5, logistic regression is giving me 6461. Okay, so so I will definitely use this SVM because it is giving me a good score. Okay guys, so like that would be it in this session. Like it's a very important case study. Like if you like, this is one of the like most important step, that is hyperparameter tuning. So we can do that using grid search CV. Okay, so I will encourage you that you choose a data set, and try to follow the same things that I have done over here. Try to do hyperparameter tuning by yourself. Then you will get to understand that how it is working and why we are using this. Okay. Okay, students, so that would be it in this session. um, and like do revise all the things that we have studied, and I have shared this like GitHub link to you, so you can download it and run. So when you will run this, so then what will happen, that if you train over here, if you run this in this part, it will take a lot of time. So why it is taking a lot of time, because for every model it is training for different hyperparameters. So we are training my model a large number of times, so that's why it will take a lot of time to train. Okay, so no need to worry, like it will take some time to train. So that is the thing. Okay, so all right, so that would be it. Like time is also past, so that would be it in this session, and thank you all for participating, and we'll be meeting on Monday now. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you. Bye bye everyone.